What's up guys, my name is Dean, aka the Blue Crusader, and welcome back to the channel. I'm a huge fan of Halo growing up with it. I'd play hours every day with my friends on Xbox Live, building awesome Forge levels and then testing them out in 3v3 battles or playing SWAT and social games. After nearly 10 years, we finally scored the biggest win with Halo Reach coming to PC. With Halo being a console game for so many years and the hype being high, I was skeptical of what was just to come, but after playing the Halo Reach PC edition for nearly 2 weeks now, with around just north of 30 hours played, and having finished my first run of the campaign story mode on PC from start to finish, I felt it's necessary to give my personal, honest review on the game's port to PC, and the experience that I had so far. In this review, I'll be giving a real, general review on Halo Reach as a game, as well as looking into each section of the game, the campaign mode, firefight mode, multiplayer and its different variants, so competitive and social games, the modding scene and its potential, and also comparing the experience to the nostalgic original Xbox 360 version. Warning, there's potential spoilers to the story for new players who haven't experienced Halo Reach before in the past. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So it took me maybe 3 days to completely finish the game's campaign mode on normal difficulty. This was with taking the story at a steady pace and watching all of the in-game cinematics to remind myself of the story and experience after so many years. It was like playing a brand new Halo for me, it had been so long. To say that the single game price for Halo Reach is only £6.99, which is around just over €8 or over $9, that's a decent level of gameplay for the casual player in just the campaign alone, and you definitely will get what you're paying for. Although I was a little bit disappointed to arrive at the end of the campaign so soon, Reach was a short run in comparison to some of the other Halo games. The Reach story mode puts you in the shoes of new recruit to the Spartan team Noble Squad, Noble 6, as you begin by inspecting disturbances on the planet Reach. Its setting is in the year 2552, before the plot of Halo 1, aka Halo CE or Halo Combat Evolved. This is a time before the story of Master Chief and based during the events in the Halo novel Fall of Reach. The planet is the main military hotspot for the UNSC, or United Nations Space Command, and is an Earth-like planet and one of the last remaining human colonies during the war against the Alien Covenant at the time. Your team comprises of the Commando, or Noble Leader, Carter, Tech Specialist Kat, Heavy Weapons Guy George, Close Quarters Expert Emil, and the Sniper Jun. Your typical kind of Spec Ops squad and a bunch of Spartans. As the game progresses, you tackle the various missions of the story arc with the aid of some of your squad members, who are usually split up and not present for the most part, and in other areas doing their own thing. The team sees the planet invaded by a full-on offensive by the Covenant, who are searching for important vital information, which we don't discover what it actually is until later in the plotline. The game is action-packed and there's a lot of variation in missions in comparison to many of the old Halo games. For an example, you fight on the ground with a typical shoot-'em-up experience and with warthogs, mongooses and more vehicles to utilise, but not only this, Reach dabbles in space battles as you get to fly the Sabre jet planes equipped with machine gun turrets and missiles in a style that very much mirrors Star Wars Battlefront 2, as you have to destroy Covenant spaceships such as Banshees, Phantoms and shielded ships brand new to the Halo franchise called Seraphs before you board an alien super vessel that you need to destroy with a makeshift explosion. And there's even a level with planetary dogfights in the sky using special Falcons, which are flying vehicles in the game, where you have to destroy turrets, Banshees and other similar vehicles. What makes these missions so charming is the mixture between sky battles and ground reconnaissance missions, where segments of the mission will be in space before you then board the ship and take to the ground in FPS fashion, or in the new Alexandria mission which I mentioned before, which is flying in the city in a skyfight. There's breakups to the dogfights in the city's skies as you land to activate terminals in the city's high-rise buildings. So it gives you a mix in both types of gameplay in these missions. The story is both cinematic and gripping, as the high-quality cinematic and stellar acting makes for high tension and interest in what's going on in the current. Sure, this game is a port, but it sure doesn't feel like it once you're in game. The story may leave some players emotional, as the members of your squad you grow affection for and familiarise yourself with all individually fall one by one during the story, going out in heroic fashion or in cases of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, showing that even Spartans aren't invincible like the picture we've become so used to with the Master Chief during the other Halo games, showing a sense of realism and loss of hope for humanity which really sells the story and shows the struggle mankind faces before the events of Halo 1. If that doesn't make new players a fan of Halo, I don't know what could. It really puts in retrospect just how much more elite Master Chief is in regard to the other Spartans as a comparison. As the game meets its end, you're tasked with journeying to Dr. Halsey, who is the head of research and brains behind the Spartan program and the Mjolnir armor at ONI, which is the Office of Naval Intelligence. She is protecting a special piece of intelligence which later turns out to be the artificial intelligence, or AI, Halo fans know as Cortana, which ties into the rest of the Halo series and creates the ultimate setup for the events of the later games in the saga. This mission is another breath of fresh air, as it immerses you into a tower defense type scenario where you must activate multiple turrets to create a perimeter to defend against multiple waves of Covenant as you protect Halsey's lab before acquiring the so-called package, which is the AI. After this, your mission is to deliver Cortana to Captain Keyes at the UNSC frigate called the Pillar of Autumn, names which are familiar to those who completed Halo Combat Evolved. The last missions pit you into a firefight scenario as you hold off yet again more waves of aliens and defend the Pillar of Autumn before it can undock from the station, and the ship can then send out a dropship to collect you in the AI package. After the last Spartan of Noble 6, Emil, is killed by elites who ambush him, 6 decides to stay on the planet and man the anti-aircraft cannon to fend off alien forces to allow the ship to escape. This is a satisfying segment in which you blast tens of ships in the sky with the most powerful weapon we use yet. The last mission is another pull on the heartstrings as you as the player come to the realization of your choices and the utter disregard and doom of humanity as you're the last remaining of your squad, tasked with the objective to simply survive as endless Covenant forces traverse on your position, ultimately until you fall in battle. There's no way to avoid this, whether you die from a lack of ammo or health or both, it's basically inevitable. The last cinematic is an ode to your character as your discarded helmet still remains on the planet's surface in the future in a now restored Reach, as the colonists restore the planet to its once glory, so it shows that the story is looking back into the past. The Halo Reach campaign is a must play for any new player of Halo or fan who wants to start from the beginning and immerse themselves in a game with a strong narrative, diverse range of characters both male and female, and gameplay with multiple refreshing and non-linear levels, which always leave you surprised. In terms of the original experience on console back in the day, I felt the same when playing it on gamepad, and the level of immersion somehow felt even greater, but perhaps that's due to being older and appreciating a good story more. For those worried about the port and how it performs on PC when playing the story, I wouldn't worry. Those who want to take things to the next level can play on heroic or legendary mode for immense difficulty and a good challenge. But there's more to Reach than just a great story. Let's look next into the different modes. We will first cover the Firefight mode as it's player versus AI, similar in fashion to the campaign, which is fitting. Firefight mode, to the uninitiated, is a mode that serves as both single player and cooperative that was first introduced in Halo 3 ODST back in 2009, and it serves as a wave-based 4-player versus AI mode as you fight waves on waves of Covenant reinforcements in different environments within the game, most synonymous with the maps in the campaign, similar to how the competitive multiplayer maps work. There are 10 completely unique levels based on the campaign missions in this mode. As you tackle the different waves, each wave gets more challenging in terms of enemy difficulty, numbers, and their variants. Another factor is the Halo skulls, which are basically named difficulty modifiers that are activated each round to make it more challenging. Examples of these are Tough Luck, which cause enemies to evade more, Catch, which encourages enemies to throw more nades, and silly ones like Grunt Birthday Party, which makes confetti come out of grunts' heads when they're killed. There's also color-coded custom skull settings if you create a custom game in single player or with friends. In similar fashion to online versus multiplayer, there are loadouts where the player can have different weapons or armor abilities such as a jetpack, hologram, and armor lock, and more, depending on their playstyle. There are other game modes for Firefight such as Gruntpocalypse, which more grunt aliens spawn in an endless wave with plasma nades and cannons that drop around the map, or Sniper Fight, which will make player loadouts loadouts specific to ranged snipers with infinite ammo, and an explosive based mode. Changing loadouts in these modes will only change abilities rather than weapons, but make for more diverse gameplay and a new spin on things. Anyone who wants a challenge can play Heroic Firefight in single player or in the Heroic Firefight limited mode in matchmaking online. For those who are fans of wave-based player versus AI games, namely Orcs Must Die or the Dungeon Defenders games, should find Halo Reach's Firefight mode fun and immersive. Let's move on to multiplayer, another large segment to cover in this review. Multiplayer has two different online variants, social games and competitive games. These are blanket groups for many sub-game types which I will briefly cover because there's just so many of them. The competitive playlist is short and sweet, housing only two modes. It contains Team Hardcore mode, which is Slayer but no sprint, motion sensors, and the bloom shooting mechanics aren't there, and each player has a DMR rifle. Then there's Reach Invasion mode, which is a team-based objective mode with Spartans versus Elites. Progression grants new loadouts, vehicles, and strategies. I haven't played enough competitive game types just yet, so I won't comment more on it than just a simple overview. The modes in social games. The first being Slayer, which is a collective game type but pretty self-explanatory. They're modes in which you try to get the highest and top frags to reach a score limit before the other team or players to win the game. The only difference is some are solo or team experiences. Slayer or Team Slayer is the 4v4 team based mode, whereas the other modes are also split into sub game types, which are Team Doubles, that's a 2v2 based game, Rumble Pit, this is a solo lone wolves type experience, and my personal favourite Big Team Battle, that's a larger scale 8 vs 8 mode with large scale maps to accommodate for it. For players who are used to objective style games with a goal in mind, there's Flag and Bomb, which is including CTF or Capture the Flag, and bomb plant orientated modes. In this group there is also Zone Control that requires seizing control of zones and holding them down to acquire points in a King of the Hill type fashion, and then there's also Asset Denial, which is a mode where you attack enemy targets and defend your own assets. The sub modes for this are Oddball, which a player must keep the ball for points, or Headhunter, where killing players grants skulls that must be then held for time to gain points. The more players you kill that have more skulls, the more skulls you carry yourself until you die. Action Sack is a collection of diverse minigames and fun orientated modes to chill out with, and they're mostly ones that don't need to be taken seriously. For an example, if you're relaxing at night time. One of my favourite modes in multiplayer is SWAT mode. This is for those players who want to train their pinpoint aim where the headshot is king. Aiming for the head is paramount when the only way to kill a target is by a round to the face basically, and the mode is theoretically just Team Slayer but without radars, shields and other factors. The thing is, on normal Slayer mode, something that a lot of people don't know is that headshots don't really count for much. As long as the last shot is a headshot when the shield is broken, it always takes 5 shots to kill someone, regardless where the first 4 shots hit. This is why SWAT mode is really unique. There are 3 final game types in the matchmaking pool, one being Team Snipers, which is another memorable favourite for many, which has no motion sensors and all weapons on the map are sniper rifle based weapons. Infection mode is for those players who just love zombies. It's basically human versus zombie and killing zombies grants score, but if a zombie kills you, bad news, you become one and the cycle continues. As a zombie you have the evade ability, which lets you roll and move faster to make it harder for players to get you, and you usually have the energy sword or gravity hammer weapons for strong close range power and range like an assassin. It's a thrilling mode and super fun to play with friends. And lastly, there is Griffball, another immensely chill but fun experience back from the MLG days. It starts as a community based mode from Rooster Teeth, the red versus blue machinima guys, and it requires one player to plant the bomb at each opposing side, and if the player is killed, it's free reign for the other team to acquire the ball. But players are equipped with the lethal gravity hammers and energy swords like in Infection mode to defend their base or attack the opposition, so it takes a whole host of both skill and mainly luck, and it's a super thrill to play for casual players. One big gripe and complaint players seem to have on Halo Reach's arrival to PC is the debate of the PC versus console gamer, mouse and keyboard versus controller. Well, it seems pretty clear right now that console is king, and that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. The game is mostly positive in terms of reviews on Steam, but you can still see litters of people complaining with negative reviews about how the controller has high levels of aim assist to correct player shots and bullet magnetization to make close projectiles hit, like using the needler weapon. For the most part, these negative reviews are very far and few between, most granting the player a positive outlook and score, and people reveling in the sheer nostalgia of the Halo Reach PC experience. Sure, there is truth to this, and 343, the developer, developer and carer behind the Halo franchise, and Microsoft, stated they have no plans to amend this, but as a PC player myself and an old school console player back in the day on 360, I have a pretty non-biased opinion on the matter. I feel the levels of aim assist on controller are positive. When playing, I felt like it was a true Xbox experience yet again. That's why it doesn't feel like a port, because players are encouraged to play on gamepad if they want to be on a level playing field, and whether that's just an effort to sell more controllers by Microsoft or not, it genuinely made me feel like I was playing Halo again. Playing these mediocre Halo ports like the Russian Halo Online, which was the El Dorito project, recently didn't feel like a genuine Halo experience to me, but Halo Reach on PC won't disappoint. A lot of these ports usually favour people using mouse and keyboard, so they just don't really feel like Halo. New players to the franchise need to understand that it was designed for Xbox and hosted on Xbox for nearly 20 years at this point, and with a majority of PC players who've played combat games owning a controller, there's just really no excuse at this point. I did play on both mouse and keyboard, and as a player of Battle Royale and FPS games for the past few years, I have to say I was definitely at a disadvantage on mouse, but pro players should be able to find their place on mouse and keyboard. I have seen a lot of streamers find success and land some pretty good shots and survive well against controller players. However, somehow I'm very happy this is the case, that controller's better, because I feel like I'm back in 2010 again, mirroring the old days. This is why I think 343 should pat themselves on the back and see Halo Reach as success, although we still have 5 more games to come. Another thing is Microsoft's choice to implement the industry standard Easy Anti-Cheat or EAC in the combat against cheaters. Halo is one of those franchises that's dear to so many of our hearts, and one we definitely don't want to be infested or tainted by cheaters like Counter-Strike was. So far in the first 2 weeks, whether it's a time-based thing or just a waiting game at this point, I've not actually seen a single cheater or any news of such things online, making me know that the online multiplayer experience is both fair and fun for all. There's currently no report system, but I don't feel like it's needed, although possibly an exception for this is the current influx of so-called AFK cheaters, seeking to grind XP in game by sitting static without doing anything, making team experience more boring or at a disadvantage for those on their team. They do this by taping their controller joysticks to prevent an AFK kick, although I seem to think in the future they will receive some kind of ban or penalisation or suspension for this. It's more predominant in Griffball as the games are quick and deliver high XP, but it's still a problem, and I see a lot of players complaining about this already. The new season system replaces the old version of the game's credit system, which was a grind process that required players to complete games, streaks and various challenges to unlock so-called credit points to unlock their favourite armour. The new system does away with this and introduces a battle style orientated setup that grants season points to the player for levelling up from playing games by gaining high score and XP. 1 point is guaranteed each level, and this 1 point is required to purchase every single unlock, although this has to be done manually and all unlocks must be purchased in order, and then a new tier can be unlocked after each tier of unlocks is acquired, making it pretty pointless to have season points at this point in the first place when each level guarantees an unlock and you can't buy the specific things you want, rather having to unlock everything first before you acquire it in the lineup. But we're in early days, and perhaps 343 has plans for this system, as they're already confirming brand new content in the future and multiple seasons and unlocks for the road to come. The game options in the Master Chief Collection are impressive, allowing full customization of the FOV or field of view, vehicle field of view, crosshair position and mouse and keyboard and controller settings, which include things like sensitivity and key mapping as well as keybinds. There are options for uncapped FPS, although it's slightly bugged right now and it causes for screen tearing issues, although it does feel good and they'll probably fix this in the future. The game now supports both VSync and 60 FPS gameplay, dwarfing the original 30 FPS console variant of the game. The graphics settings allow for different windowed modes, resolutions and scales, and also the so-called graphics quality option or system, which is a simplification rather than an advanced mode like most games offer, but it allows for performance, classic graphics or the new enhanced graphics, which tend to improve upon the original. The menu system is created in Unreal Engine, meaning the Master Master Chief Collection, or MCC, runs on multiple engines, and the menu being a hub of sorts which links everything together somehow. Even Reach is said to run as a DLL file inside it, which is pretty strange. The armor customization system is great as it's accompanied by the beauty of the Unreal Engine rendering of the player's Spartan suit. However, I do have my complaints with it. For a start, the armor pieces are not previewed when hovering over the items in the list, meaning you must expand and explore the sub-menus, and when going back, you're set back to the start of the list, making for a waste of time when scrolling back down again. And it's also the case that it doesn't show a tick or cross or any indication of what you've unlocked unless you click on every sub-item individually, which makes it a time-costly annoyance when trying to see what you've got and what you haven't got. The menu system is clunky to say the least, and I do miss the original Xbox menu and layout, although the new UI still looks visually beautiful, and I would be happy with it if certain minor improvements were made, as it still looks very Halo-esque in its design and presentation. One thing is when you're off on multiplayer and click on a player profile, they have a so-called player avatar now, which is basically just an effortless picture render of characters from the Halo series, whereas in the original Halo 3, Reach, and some of the other following games after that, you could view the player's full armor suit and even in some cases spin it around and inspect it. This is all a very possible thing that could be implemented to retain the consistency and nostalgia, but they just haven't done it yet, and I really hope they do that. Another thing is it barely shows much information on the player achievements, stats, or records on the profile, simply only showing the current level and XP that the player has. To me, player details on multiplayer seem unfinished at this point and definitely need some work in the form of what I mentioned. Custom games are very much so a thing in Halo Reach, and you can actually access players' file shares to download custom games and game modes to play, which is a huge positive. Custom games were the life force in Halo 3 and Reach back in the day on Xbox, and a huge contributor to community creativity and consistency. Most of players' favourite modes they know and love are back, such as Jenga, Duck Hunt, Fat Kid, and more. The other huge thing about Halo since Halo 3 is Forge mode, with the original Reach bringing the brand new map Forge World, a larger scale map with different islands and a massive open space, basically designed just for player created maps. However, with the current state of the game at the time of this review, Forge mode is unfortunately not included or even released yet, with the developers claiming it still needs some heavy work and that it should be released early next year in 2020. However, that moves me on to the next topic of modding in Halo Reach and its vast potential. Halo Reach already actually has a strong modding community online via the Reddit community r/Halo mods and the Halo Reach Nexus mod site. This is fueled and allowed by Microsoft and 343 as they released the game with two versions, one with the anti-cheat enabled, granting access to multiplayer, and one with the anti-cheat disabled that allows players to mess around with the game's files and basically mod to the heart's content, although it of course has limitations to the multiplayer access, but relaxes the file checks and consistency borders that the anti-cheat version has, so players can have fun and create stuff. If you go on the main hub for Halo Reach PC mods right now, the Halo Reach Nexus website, there's already a foundation of mods forming in their infancy, some that modify the campaign's weapon values, difficulty factors, AI behaviour, some that are sound or main menu replacers, and also awesome map mods that allow the use of previously inaccessible vehicles that are now flyable. I've made videos on most of these various things. There's even map mods that add brand new vehicles by modifying old ones, such as the Mongoose motorcycle mod, and one of my personal favourite mods that allows the Reach campaign to be fully played entirely in third person mode. It just makes for a completely new experience. It's always a positive when developers allow the modding community to thrive. It adds an extra layer of longevity to their games and allows the creative minds of players to really go to work. That's something that I really respect 343 for doing. All in all, I feel like for the most part, Halo Reach PC is one of the best console ports I've personally seen so far, and it has almost everything going for it right now. Sure, it's not perfect and it definitely needs some work, namely in the form of certain UI improvements, fixes, and the addition of missing content, but for the 30 or so hours I've played thus far, it's been a great experience with a lack of negatives. I'd really recommend any Halo fan to pick up Reach on the PC if you haven't already, and any skeptical player who's new to the Halo franchise to at least give it a try. You can't go wrong for how little it costs. I think the success of Halo Reach, one of the more recent and complex titles, it gives hope and a sense of security for those who pre-ordered the entire Master Chief Collection for £30, which by the end of 2020 will include the other 5 Halo games, Halo 1 Combat Evolved and Halo 2 Anniversary Editions, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST and also Halo 4. This has been a huge step forward for Halo fans and definitely inspires me with confidence to consider pre-ordering the rest of the collection if Reach was so successful. We'll have to see how they actually farther Reach in the next few months and see what kind of updates they bring us and quality of life improvements and fixes to the current few problems. If you enjoy Halo Reach videos, I have many Halo Reach PC mod tutorials and showcases, as well as guides and tips and tricks on getting better at the game's multiplayer. So if you like those types of videos or other awesome gaming and top 10 style videos like GTA 5, Minecraft and more, check out the channel for the other videos and support it by liking this video and subscribing with the notifications turned on. So click that bell so you can enable all the notifications so you don't miss out on more awesome daily videos. Drop a comment below letting me know what you thought about Halo Reach personally as a game on PC, or if you agree or disagree with my review. I'm interested to see how people actually took the new Halo release on PC and how other people have been experiencing it and their personal opinions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.